Netflix just announced some major changes to crack down on customers sharing their Netflix account passwords with family and friends, and customers are not happy about it at all. For a little more context on how this whole thing started, it's important to know that Netflix did not have a good 2022 to say the least. Netflix's stock crashed over 45% over the course of last year, and they even lost subscribers for the first time in over a decade, which shocked investors and led the stock to tank. In addition, the company has been facing increased streaming competition from platforms like Disney+, Paramount+, and HBO Max. In order to regain investor confidence in Netflix's stock, the company decided that it would need to take big steps to return to growing its subscriber base again. And one of the things that Netflix decided could help it return to growth was cracking down on the number of customers that were sharing their passwords with other people. Netflix estimates that over 100 million households are currently sharing their account, which the company says is undermining their ability to grow the business. So in order to address this, they are rolling out a system they are calling paid sharing, where customers will be able to pay extra if they want to share their Netflix account with someone else that they don't live with. In Netflix's most recent shareholder letter, the company wrote that, quote, 2022 was a tough year, with a bumpy start but a brighter finish. We believe we have a clear path to re-accelerate our revenue growth, continuing to improve all aspects of Netflix, launching paid sharing, and building our ads offering. As always, our North Stars remain pleasing our members and building even greater profitability over time. End quote. So it's clear that this strategy of restricting password sharing is something that Netflix is clearly putting a lot of focus into as something to get the company back on track. Netflix has said that they are planning on introducing paid sharing more broadly later in the first quarter of 2023. They already have been testing the paid sharing idea in Latin America, and the company had the following comment about the system in their recent letter to shareholders. Quote, from our experience in Latin America, we expect some cancel reaction in each market when we roll out paid sharing, which impacts near-term member growth. But as borrower households begin to activate their own standalone accounts and extra member accounts are added, we expect to see improved overall revenue, which is our goal with all plan and pricing changes. End quote. So Netflix knows full well that there will be backlash and subscriber loss from the changes initially, but they are planning on moving forward with it anyway because they believe that eventually a lot of the people that had been borrowing someone else's password will buy Netflix themselves. At least that's the assumption that the company is operating under. Whether or not that's actually true remains to be seen. You might be wondering how Netflix will even be able to tell if a customer is sharing their account and enforce this password sharing policy. And that's where the recently updated Netflix Help Center page comes into play. Netflix recently updated their Help Center articles related to password sharing in some South American countries where the password sharing restrictions are already in effect to explain how they work. But these articles were also shared on the US version of the site as well. And it raised quite a few eyebrows and upset a lot of Netflix customers. The new policy requires people to set a primary location for their Netflix account through a TV. If a customer doesn't set a primary location or doesn't have a TV, Netflix will automatically set a primary location for the account based on the IP address, device IDs, and activity. Once this primary location is set, the Wi-Fi network becomes the main factor for determining whether a device is within the primary location. All devices signed into the Netflix account on the Wi-Fi network are associated with the primary location on the account, and they will be able to use Netflix because of that. But other devices not on the Wi-Fi network will not be able to access Netflix unless they connect to the primary location Wi-Fi network at least once every 31 days. That can be feasible to do with relatively mobile devices like a phone, laptop, or tablet, but this obviously doesn't work so well with a television. People aren't going to bring a television with them to connect to a Wi-Fi network every month, and Netflix knows that. And this is what makes it a relatively effective approach to restrict password sharing, even if it is extremely inconvenient and cumbersome for actual customers as well. If someone is traveling and is unable to access Netflix because the device they are trying to use has not been connected to the primary location Wi-Fi network on the account, they will be able to request a temporary verification code that will be sent to the Netflix account holder. If this verification code is entered, then the device will be able to access Netflix for 7 days. It's unclear though if multiple temporary verification codes can be used after the 7-day time period is up to continue accessing Netflix on that device by extending the access for another 7 days, or if there is a limit to the amount of temporary codes that you can use. Netflix will be monitoring a device's location through a combination of IP addresses, device IDs, and account activity. A Netflix spokesperson claimed that these guidelines were mistakenly posted on the United States Netflix Help Center page, and they have since been removed from the US version of the site. So right now these policies only apply to a few countries in South America, but the spokesperson did not give any further comment on whether the US or other countries will have the same policies in the near future. The spokesperson simply said, quote, "Later in Q1 we expect to start rolling out page sharing more broadly," end quote. Even though Netflix's PR team is trying to clean up the mess a little bit, based on the lack of comment on what the policy will actually look like in the United States and other countries, it seems very likely that the policy for password sharing will be the same or very similar to what they outlined in South America. These changes will potentially create a lot of situations where customers may not be able to easily access Netflix, even if they aren't sharing their passwords with other people. For example, what about someone who travels frequently for work and is not able to connect to their home Wi-Fi network? Will they just be locked out of Netflix if they don't connect to the Wi-Fi frequently enough? And what about situations with families who have children who have left across the country for college and they won't be on the home Wi-Fi network anymore? Is Netflix considering those people to be separate households now? And are they expecting them to pay extra money for the paid sharing plan? Netflix's hardline stance against password sharing is an attempt to return Netflix to subscriber growth and boost the company's bottom line and stock performance. But it remains to be seen if this move will even work. This move certainly has the potential to backfire and create more Netflix subscription cancellations than they are expecting. Netflix is no longer the only competition in town for streaming, and there are a wide variety of options that don't have restrictive policies against password sharing like these ones that Netflix is trying to implement now. Some of these other competitors arguably have an even better selection of content than Netflix does at this point. Netflix is making this move assuming that it has leverage and pricing power over its customers, but Netflix is arguably in the weakest position it's ever been in relative to its competition. Majorly upsetting customers when just last year you had your first subscriber loss in over a decade might not be the best idea. There are already a lot of upset Netflix customers that are threatening to cancel their subscriptions, and there are even talks of boycotting the company. It remains to be seen if the crackdown on shared passwords will work out for Netflix, but I think there's a bigger chance that it goes poorly for them than the company seems to realize. These changes still aren't in effect everywhere yet, so it's also possible that Netflix could change its approach based on the public reaction. While Netflix seems to be implying that these updates were mistakenly posted to the US Netflix Help Center page, it might also have been a deliberate PR move by the company to put this information on the site temporarily so that they could leak the news without committing to the policy fully yet. This gives them the ability to gauge the public reaction and adjust accordingly, which is a tactic that I wouldn't put past a PR team for a major company like Netflix. But be sure to let me know your thoughts on Netflix's password sharing restrictions in the comments below. Do you think that this approach will backfire for them? Be sure to let me know what you think, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more finance content. Thanks.